This episode is for the writer who thinks, or used to think, that self-publishing is, for whatever reason, less than traditional publishing. When you think of self-published books, and I'm speaking from my own perspectives, you think of the Comic Sans font, you think cheesy covers, awkward marketing, you just feel like, ugh, that is not the vibe I want. You've been conditioned to consider self-publishing as lower quality, that traditional publishing is going to equate to, quote, good writing. So in this episode, I actually want to debunk the skepticism around self-publishing and invite you into a new way of seeing your memoir within the publishing landscape. Let's get into it.
You are listening to the Memoir Method podcast, the place for writers, readers, and anyone who appreciates the collective power of our stories. In this podcast, we explore the impact of memoir alongside an examination of writing techniques and strategies used in the genre. Whether you are a writer looking for inspiration and guidance or a passionate reader seeking meaningful connections through shared experiences, the Memoir Method podcast is your go-to conversation spot. I'm your host, Charlotte, editor, writer, and the heart behind Charlotte Writes. Let's get started.
So let's talk about this narrative that we have all absorbed, because it is baked into every writing, movie, TV show, literary success story that we've been shown. Publishing is a very glamorized industry. We've put it up on this pedestal, and you've heard me talk about this before. So here's what the dream looks like. You write a book, you get an agent, you sell to a big publisher, you sign the contract, and then you just get to do edits with an in-house editor, and then you celebrate on release day. And then your book sells and you're a New York Times bestseller. So yes, traditional publishing can be great. It's a very predictable and proven process in a lot of ways. For countless authors, this is the model that works. I do want to make sure that you are aware of the shadow side of traditional publishing as well, because publishing is an industry, especially traditional publishing. It's an industry that is subject to trends, to profits, and opinion. When you say yes to traditional publishing, you are also saying yes to a slow-moving institutional model. Often, this model will serve you, but sometimes it won't. And if I've learned anything as both an editor and a human over the past 5 years, it's that institutions don't hold a candle to intuition. And this is across the board, not just with publishing. So if you are carrying the spark of the dream to publish your memoir, then that is the universe telling you that you are meant to do this, that you are meant to write a memoir. And even more deeply, this is your sign that the world needs your story and the conversation that you're here to ignite. And here's where things get sticky when it comes to traditional publishing. And I say this as someone who has fallen into these thought patterns herself. When we look at traditional publishing as legitimizing our writing, it's rooted in external validation. This says to you, you are only a real author if someone else in the industry says so. If someone else in the industry approves of your story, of your writing, and says that it's good enough. And that is how the model works. Again, I'm not even here to dunk on traditional publishing, because it is a model that has been around for a really long time. I'm going to do a separate episode in a few weeks about the history of publishing, because it is a fascinating industry that has shapeshifted a lot over the past centuries. But I want you to think about what would happen if you were the one to validate yourself as a writer, as an author, and then you let that lead you to traditional publication. What if you allowed this creative spark inside of you to teach you how to play publishing instead of allowing the publishing industry to play you? And I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's true. I've seen so many writers, both that I have worked with and also just writers in the general online landscape, feel at the whims of the publishing industry. And when you are doing publishing, traditional publishing, you are at the whims of a fickle industry. And that's not bad. I've worked with writers who know that about the industry, and they are thinking about themselves as authors right now. And the way that they engage with the process is so much different. The way that they deal with rejection is so much different with their mindset. So this episode about tackling the skepticism around self-publishing isn't to make traditional publishing bad. I want to shift the way that you think about the publishing industry and the options that are available to you. So I want you to think about how publishing your memoir would feel if it could happen completely on your terms. I feel in many ways this is applicable regardless of how you publish, whether you publish traditionally or self-publish. Here's how I see this institutional trust play out from the perspective of an independent editor. Writers will live in the drafting stage for years, sometimes decades. That's not even hyperbole. So yes, drafting a book is not something that you can rush. I don't want you to rush the process. I don't want to diminish the creative, emotional, mental journey that it is to write a book. There does come a point where I see writers spinning in circles more than making progress on their manuscript. So this can happen for a variety of reasons, but often underlying the writing process is the question of whether or not their memoir will be chosen, air quotes, at all, if all this work will actually pay off. So writers will come to me in a discovery call wanting to know what's sellable. Is their memoir sellable? What will find readers? What will be engaging for the general readership? And in full transparency, I cannot answer that question. The skill set of discerning publishing trends belongs with an entirely different publishing profession. You want to talk to an agent about that. What I can do is tap you into the conversation that your story is here to introduce, and simultaneously help you tap into who you are as an author today. I do not see the publishing landscape as a scarcity-driven landscape anymore. I used to. I refuse to accept a scarcity mindset in any of my spaces, including publishing. I think there's more than enough readers for everybody, and I think that the ways that are available to get your story and message out there are more varied than they've ever been before. And when you can engage with publishing in that way, from that growth possibilities mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, you are subconsciously changing your own internal narrative around publishing, which is what I've done. And if you stick with that, this is going to rewrite the external publishing industry. The publishing industry is primed for a shift. I can feel it and I can see it. And I'll say again, I'm not here to knock traditional publishing. This is a model that works for a lot of writers and has a lot of positives to it. It just isn't the only way to get your name in print. So I want you to open your mind to self-publishing for the sole purpose of reclaiming your power as a writer and author, so that whichever way you choose to publish, it will feel like a choice. It will feel like an active choice for you. You are going to make the shift from waiting to be picked to inviting yourself onto the stage, to creating your own stage. However you publish, I want you to feel that you are the one driving your publishing journey and you are the one creating your success. You are the one having this conversation, attracting the readers, leading the movement. If traditional publishing is the vehicle to get you there, fantastic. And if not, you know that you have an abundance of options. In 2025, the barriers to entry in publishing are lower than ever, and the platforms for authorship are more powerful than they've ever been. The internet and social media have opened up access to readers in infinite ways. And I know that you will find think pieces and other professionals within the industry who kind of bemoan the lower barrier to entry when it comes to getting your words out there. But I can only see good. Like, there's always going to be negatives to some things. The algorithm isn't always a positive thing, right? But I think that the beauty of writers being able to just publish right now, that the positives of that weigh out the negatives by a mile for me. And so I know it's easy to come at the publishing industry from that place of scarcity. I'm the editor for the visionaries, not the pragmatists or the cynics. Like, I want to engage with publishing from a place of possibility and from a place of vision. Those are the writers I love, love, love to work with. You don't need to wait for a gatekeeper. Traditional publishing is full of gatekeepers. That's how we've been taught the process works. It doesn't have to be that way. There's so many more options to you right now. We don't have to work that way anymore. With the right structure, support, and editorial direction, your self-published memoir can reach your reader directly and deeply. And the truth about all of this is that your memoir isn't really about you at all. It's about the impact that your story shares with your reader. So I don't care what you've heard up to this point as a writer. You don't need to wait for permission to make an impact. You don't. The world's biggest impact makers are those who saw it in themselves and then shared it. No external validation required. And this is true even before the internet. Inside of my signature program, the Memoir Method, I do guide you through dismantling those old stale assumptions and teach you how to rebuild your author identity from the inside out. And I do that alongside frameworks and tools and skills to help you rebuild and amplify your manuscript as well. This is where you will gain clarity on what you're really writing, and you will finally have a clear path to a published book. And how you publish has very little to do with your success as an author. Right now, I invite you to flip the script. Instead of telling yourself self-publishing is what you do when you can't break into traditional publishing, try this instead. Self-publishing is a more direct, empowered way to bring your message into the world. Instead of traditional publishing is the best way to publish my memoir, try traditional publishing is one way to publish a book. Self-publishing does not have to be your backup plan. This gets to be your power move. Again, kind of feeling a little cheesy, but this gets to be your powerful choice as an author and visionary. And truthfully, self-publishing allows you to move faster, retain more control, protect your message, and build readership right now, not 5 years from now. The publishing world is changing. So the question becomes not, will someone finally choose me? But instead, how am I meant to make my impact? Where am I supposed to be having this conversation? And then you let your conviction guide your publishing journey, not an arbitrary set of rules or gatekeepers. Maybe this episode scares you a little bit, and that's not surprising if you've spent your whole creative life setting up traditional publishing on a pedestal. But you can also feel this shift coming into creative spaces. Some may say it's AI, which is its own conversation altogether, but this shift is so much deeper than any one tool or institution. It's time for you to own not just your story, but your experience within publishing. We're not outsourcing our message or impact to anyone. We're not waiting for someone to give us permission to go. We're going right now. Maybe traditional publishing will be the best path for you. Or maybe this episode has opened up a whole new way of seeing publishing and you're about to explore your options. But whatever it is, whatever your path, I want you to feel like you are choosing it. I want you to actively choose it. I created the Memoir Method for this exact moment because I've seen too many incredible writers sit on powerful stories waiting for an external yes. The writers of mine who have published their work have stopped waiting for the yes and have created it themselves. So don't wait. Don't stall out in another draft. Your reader is out there and your story can make a difference. It's supposed to make a difference. To start this mindset shift right now, hop into my free private podcast series, Published. This is 4 short episodes that reframe everything you thought you knew about publishing. This isn't in a separate podcast feed from this public space. Published is private, intimate, and primed to change how you see yourself within the publishing landscape. I'll drop the link in the show notes for you. And if you are listening to this episode thinking, yes, this is the movement that I've been waiting for, I invite you to join me inside of the Memoir Method. This is the last program you will ever need for your memoir. It's time for you to write your last draft. Phase 1 of the Memoir Method is available right now, all instant access. So you can jump in right now and start this shift immediately. Phase 2 of the Memoir Method runs live in August. It is currently discounted by over $500. So I'll put the link in the show notes for you to jump in. Let's get those wheels going. Let's start this shift right now. You can start today. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. The conversation about publishing and self-publishing and authorship is one of the conversations that I've been wanting to have. It's one that I've been wanting to invite people into, and this is the way that I'm doing it, and I'm so grateful that you're here. So thank you so much. I cannot wait to see what you are going to do with your impact, what publishing path you are going to choose, and I will see you next week.
You've just listened to an episode of the Memoir Method podcast. The Memoir Method podcast is presented by Charlotte Writes. If you liked what you heard, the best way to support the show is to subscribe through your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling especially inspired, I'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leaving a review really does help other readers and writers like yourself find the show. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on my website at charlottewrites.co or on Instagram at charlottejanewrites. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And remember that you have a story that matters.